At 82 years old, I've lived through countless ups and downs and learned many valuable lessons. But there's one decision I regret the most, a decision that completely changed my life: moving into a nursing home. At the time, I thought I was making the right choice. My family assured me it would be a place where I'd be well cared for, where I'd live comfortably and safely. I believed them. But just a few weeks in, I realized the reality was nothing like what I had imagined. If you're considering moving into a nursing home, whether for yourself or for a loved one, take a moment to pause. I want to share with you 6 lessons I wish I had known before making this decision. These lessons are not just my story, they are a wake-up call for anyone standing at this critical crossroads in life. Stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to share might change the way you think about life, freedom, and what truly matters. And if you know someone who's considering moving into a nursing home, share this story with them, because sometimes one small decision can change an entire life. Welcome to Old Gold Friend. Before we begin, I'm really curious to know where in the world you are watching from. Leave a comment below. Feel free to ask any questions. I'm always ready to answer. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell to update the most useful health tips right away. With Old Gold Friend, taking care of your health has never been easier. When I first moved into the nursing home, I thought I was simply changing where I lived. I didn't realize I was also giving up the very essence of what made life mine, my independence. At 82, I had spent decades building a life where I made my own choices, no matter how small they seemed. But the moment I stepped into that sterile, unfamiliar room, I felt something shift. The first morning I woke up to the sound of footsteps outside my door. I stretched, reached for the book I had been reading at home, and then it hit me. This wasn't my home. My favorite chair, the one I had spent countless evenings in, was gone. The smell of coffee brewing in the kitchen, the sound of birds outside my window, the little comforts I had taken for granted, they were all replaced by a rigid schedule and a room that felt more like a hospital than a sanctuary. Breakfast was at 7:30 a.m. whether I was hungry or not. Lunch was at noon, dinner at 5 p.m. sharp. I remember one day I wasn't feeling well and wanted to skip breakfast, but the staff insisted I come to the dining hall. It's important to stick to the routine, they said. Routine? Whose routine? Certainly not mine. I used to love taking walks in the late afternoon, feeling the sun on my face and the breeze in my hair. But here, even something as simple as a walk required permission. I had to wait for someone to be available to assist me, and sometimes that wait felt endless. One day I asked to go outside and the staff told me, "We're short-staffed today. Maybe tomorrow." Tomorrow came and the same excuse followed. Days turned into weeks, and I realized I was no longer free to do something as basic as stepping outside when I wanted. I wasn't the only one feeling this way. There was a woman named Linda, a retired teacher who had always been fiercely independent. She told me how she used to spend her mornings gardening, her afternoons reading, and her evenings baking cookies for her grandchildren. But here she said, "I can't even decide what to wear without someone questioning if it's appropriate for the weather." One day I saw her sitting by the window staring out at the garden. She couldn't tend to anymore. Her hands, once so busy and full of purpose, now rested idly in her lap. The hardest part wasn't the loss of control over my schedule or the inability to make simple decisions. It was the slow realization that I was no longer in charge of my own life. I'd become a part of their system, a name on their list, a patient in their care. And the more I adapted to their rules, the more I felt like I was losing myself. I stopped arguing when they told me what was for dinner, even if I didn't like it. I stopped asking to go for walks because I knew the answer would likely be no. I stopped trying to hold on to the little freedoms that made life feel like mine. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself this: are you ready to give up the small freedoms that make life yours? Because once they're gone, you'll miss them more than you ever thought possible. Independence isn't just about big decisions. It's about the little things, the ability to choose when to wake up, what to eat, or how to spend your day. And once you give those up, getting them back is almost impossible. When I first moved into the nursing home, my family promised me I wouldn't feel alone. "We'll visit all the time," my daughter Mary said, holding my hand. My grandchildren chimed in. "We'll come every weekend, Grandpa." I believed them. I wanted to believe them. And in the beginning, they kept their word. The first few weeks were filled with visits. Mary came every Wednesday after work, bringing me my favorite snacks and updates about her life. My grandson Jake would stop by on Saturdays, showing me pictures of his football games and telling me about his plans for college. For a little while, it felt like I still had a connection to the world outside these walls. But then life got in the way. Mary's visits became phone calls. "I'm so sorry, Dad," she'd say. "Work's been crazy this week. I'll come by next time. I promise." Jake stopped coming altogether, caught up in school friends, and the whirlwind of being young. Holidays, once filled with laughter and family, became the hardest days of all. Everyone promised they'd come, but plans always seemed to change at the last minute. I remember one Christmas Eve vividly. I sat in the common room watching the clock tick closer to midnight. The staff had decorated a small tree, and a few residents were gathered around singing carols. But I couldn't bring myself to join them. I kept staring at the door, hoping it would open, and Mary would walk in, her arms full of gifts and her smile lighting up the room, but the door stayed closed. It wasn't just me. I saw it in the eyes of the other residents too. There was Mrs. Thompson, a sweet woman who used to bake cookies for her grandchildren every Sunday. She'd sit by the window every afternoon watching the driveway, hoping today would be the day someone came to visit. "They're busy," she'd say, trying to convince herself. "They'll come soon," but they rarely did. One evening, I sat in my room holding my phone. I wanted to call Mary to tell her how much I missed her, how much I needed her, but I didn't. I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want to remind her that I was here waiting, hoping, so I put the phone down and stared at the ceiling, feeling the weight of loneliness settle over me like a heavy blanket. The truth is, when you're not around every day, it's easy for people to assume you're fine. They think you're adjusting, that you don't need as much attention. But the longer you're in a nursing home, the easier it is to become out of sight, out of mind. If you're considering the nursing home, ask yourself this: are you prepared for the loneliness? Because no matter how much your family loves you, life has a way of moving on without you. Loneliness isn't just about being alone. It's about feeling forgotten, like the world outside has moved on and left you behind. And that feeling, more than anything, is what breaks your heart. When I moved into the nursing home, I thought I was just changing where I lived. I didn't realize I was also leaving behind the very things that gave my life meaning. At home, I had responsibilities, routines, and small joys that made every day feel worthwhile. But here in this place, those things slowly slipped away, leaving me with nothing but time and no idea how to fill it. Back at home, my mornings had a rhythm. I'd wake up, stretch, and make myself a cup of coffee. I'd water the plants in the garden, tidy up the house, and maybe bake a pie if I felt like it. These weren't grand tasks, but they gave me a reason to get out of bed. They made me feel alive. But in the nursing home, all of that disappeared. Meals were brought to me, cleaning was done by someone else, and the plants, well, they weren't mine to care for anymore. At first, I told myself it would be nice to finally relax, to have no chores or responsibilities. But after a few weeks, the days began to stretch endlessly, each one blending into the next. I wasn't the only one feeling this way. There was a man named George, a retired carpenter, who had spent his entire life building things with his hands. At home, he was always working on little projects in his garage, fixing a chair, crafting a birdhouse, or repairing something for a neighbor. But here there were no tools, no projects, no purpose. I remember sitting with George one afternoon in the common room. He was staring at his hands that had once been strong and skilled, now idle and trembling. "Slightly, I feel useless," he said quietly, his voice heavy with sadness. "I used to wake up every day knowing I had something to do, something to create. Now I just sit here waiting for time to pass." His words hit me hard because I felt the same way. Without the little rituals and responsibilities that had once filled my days, I started to feel like I was just existing, not living. I saw it in the other residents too. People who had once been vibrant and full of energy now spent their days sitting in silence, staring at the walls or the television. One day I tried to find something to do, anything to bring back a sense of purpose. I asked if I could help set the tables for dinner or fold the laundry, but the staff gently told me, "You don't need to worry about that. We'll take care of it." They meant well, but their kindness only deepened the emptiness I felt. The truth is, when you no longer have something to care for, something to work toward, life starts to lose its meaning. The mind slows down, the body follows, and soon you start to feel like just another resident in a place where time moves but nothing really changes. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself this: what gives your life meaning? Because once you move in, finding purpose isn't as simple as filling your time. It's about holding on to the things that make you feel alive. Purpose isn't just about big goals or achievements. It's about the small, everyday things, the routines, the hobbies, the sense of being needed. And when those are taken away, it's not just your days that feel empty, it's your soul. Before I moved into the nursing home, I was doing well for my age. I wasn't running marathons, but I could take care of myself. I cooked my own meals, went for walks, and kept my body moving with the little routines that kept me strong. I thought I was just moving into a place where life would be easier, where I wouldn't have to worry about the small things, but what I didn't realize was that the very ease I was looking forward to would become my undoing. At first, it felt like a luxury. Meals were brought to me, so I no longer had to stand in the kitchen, chopping vegetables or stirring pots. If I needed something, I could press a button and someone would come to help. I didn't have to clean, carry groceries, or even walk very far. It seemed like a dream, but slowly, without even noticing, I started to change. I remember the first time I noticed it. I was sitting in my chair trying to get up, and my legs felt heavier than usual. I brushed it off, thinking I was just tired. But the next day it happened again. And then again, soon getting out of a chair felt like a chore, something I had never struggled with before. I wasn't alone in this. There was Alice, an 81-year-old woman who had been full of life when she first arrived. She used to take daily walks around the facility, insisting she wasn't going to slow down just because of her age. "I'm not ready for a wheelchair," she'd say with a laugh. But after a few months, I noticed she wasn't walking as much. Then she started using a walker. And before long, she was in a wheelchair, her once strong legs now too weak to carry her. One day I asked her what had happened. She looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, "I don't know when it happened, but I feel like I've aged 10 years in just a few months." Her words stayed with me because I felt the same way. The truth is, when you stop using your body, you start losing it. The less I moved, the weaker I became. The muscles I had spent years maintaining began to disappear. My legs felt stiffer. My balance became unsteady, and even simple tasks like standing or walking across the room started to feel like challenges. The nursing home was designed to make life easier, but in doing so, it made it too easy to stop moving. And the less I moved, the more I needed help. It was a vicious cycle. I saw it happen to others too. People who had walked in on their own 2 feet, now relying on wheelchairs. People who had been independent, now needing assistance for things they had never struggled with before. I remember George, a man in his late 80s who had been a farmer his whole life. He used to joke about how he could still outwork men half his age. But after a year in the nursing home, he could barely lift his arms. "I feel like I'm fading," he told me one day, his voice heavy with defeat. If I had known how quickly my health would decline, I would have fought harder to keep moving. I would have insisted on walking more, stretching, more, doing whatever I could to stay active. But it's hard to find the motivation when everything around you is designed to make life effortless. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself this: will you still have the drive to keep your body strong when everything is set up to make life easy? Because once you slow down, getting back up isn't as simple as you think. Health isn't just about what you eat or how you feel. It's about movement, about using your body every day to keep it strong. And when you stop, even for a little while, the decline can be faster than you ever imagined. Losing privacy and dignity, a silent struggle. When I moved into the nursing home, I thought I was just trading a little privacy for safety and care. I told myself it was a small price to pay for comfort in my old age. But I didn't realize how much of my privacy and my dignity I would lose. It wasn't just about sharing a space or following a schedule. It was about losing control over the most personal parts of my life. At home, I had my own space. I could close my bedroom door, sit in silence, and do things on my own terms. But here, privacy was a luxury I no longer had. From the moment I arrived, I felt like I was constantly being watched. Staff came in and out of my room for scheduled checks, often without waiting for me to answer their knock. Even the simplest things, like getting dressed or using the bathroom, often required someone's assistance. I remember my first week vividly. I was getting ready for bed when a staff member walked in without waiting for my response. "Just checking in," she said with a smile. But I felt exposed, like my personal space no longer belonged to me. It was a small moment, but it stayed with me. Then there were the showers. At home, I could take my time, enjoy the warm water, and feel at ease, but here I had to wait for someone to be available to help me. Sometimes that meant waiting longer than I wanted. Other times it meant rushing through something that used to be a moment of peace. I remember one day when I asked for a shower and the staff told me, "We're short-staffed today. Can it wait until tomorrow?" I nodded, but inside I felt humiliated. And it wasn't just the staff. Sharing a room with a stranger was another challenge. I was lucky to have a kind roommate, but not everyone was so fortunate. There was a man named Frank who shared a room with someone who had severe cognitive issues. Frank told me how his roommate would shout in the middle of the night, keeping him awake for hours. "I feel like I'm living in someone else's chaos," he said one day, his eyes heavy with exhaustion. Even mealtimes felt like a loss of control. At home, I could eat what I wanted when I wanted. But here the menu was set, and if I didn't like what was being served, there were no other options. I remember one evening when they served meatloaf, something I've never liked. I asked if there was anything else, but the staff just shook their heads. "This is what we have tonight," they said. I ate it, but every bite felt like a reminder that my choices no longer mattered. The hardest part, though, was the loss of dignity. I had spent my entire life taking care of myself, making my own decisions and living on my own terms. But here I felt like a patient instead of a person. I remember one day when I needed help getting out of bed. The staff member who came to assist me was kind, but the act of needing help for something so basic made me feel small. Dignity is a hard thing to lose. It's not just about privacy. It's about feeling like you're still in control of your own life. And when that's taken away, it changes you. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself this: are you ready to give up the privacy and control you've had your entire life? Because once it's gone, it's hard to get back. Privacy and dignity aren't just luxuries. They're fundamental to feeling human. And when you lose them, you don't just lose a part of your life, you lose a part of yourself. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button. It really helps us bring you more valuable content. Leave a comment below and let us know what you think, what questions you have, or what topics you would like us to cover next. We love hearing from you. Of course, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest health tips. Stay informed, stay healthy, and we'll see you in the next video.